What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coruscant for week 43 of building Coruscant in Lego.
What did you say?
So welcome back to Coruscant. That's what this week's going to be, a kind of mental and Lego related deep breath as I regain my focus and desire to work on Coruscant. This week has been so chaotic with the moving, the cleaning, the packing, losing things. I feel like I'm stuck between two places, and the last thing I want to do is, sit down and try and work on Coruscant. So I'm really going to try and just get back into that mindset. So on that note, I'm going to be focusing on some real simple, easy, fun things like building statues, some custom roller droids, and even putting some flags in. Stuff that doesn't just require a lot of mental energy or setup or preparation. Things that, I'm not dreading. But don't let the ease and convenience of this plan fool you. I have some cool things planned. There's going to be a lot of good building. All that being said, don't forget to execute Order 66 on that like button, and let's get started.
Finally, the holy grail of packages has arrived. Not really, but I have been anxiously awaiting for this package to arrive for almost 3 months now. I ordered the parts from the online Pick-a-Brick wall, and the first package got lost, I guess, in the mail. So I had to email Lego and get another one sent out, which is why it took so long. The reason I wanted it so bad is because it has most of the pieces I need to build the rest of the statues. The statue parts are rare, hard to find pieces like arms and special light bluish gray wedge plates. So now I can finally build those other 8 statues and clothe my naked plateaus. But before we get to that, I have some custom droidicas to build. These were designed by my friend Grinding Bricks over on Instagram. If you enjoy great custom builds, I would highly recommend checking him out. One of the reasons I'm building these now is because one of my weaknesses when it comes to large scale MOC building is I plan lots of little side builds and vehicles that I want to include, but because of their small size and relative unimportance to the main story, I put them off until the end and then don't have the time or money to include them. So with this project, I'm trying not to do that, and so I'm making sure to build stuff like these droids in the air taxi before it's too late. Now I can tackle some more statues. I'm gonna do 2 right now so that I can complete the first, so I can have a complete set on the first plateau. These also had a decent amount of parts that were hard to find, namely the bent arms and those extra pointy wedge plates, but they're totally worth the time spent searching and waiting. I think these are gonna be a new staple in my MOCs moving forward, especially when I do old temples or fortress ruins. Let me know in the comments which alien species you think these statues look like the most.
Back on that Coruscant grind, and I love it. First thing we're going to take a look at is the now completed plateau with statues. First time we get to see all 6 together, and seeing them all together now, I honestly couldn't have asked for a better statue design. These look incredible and do the job better than I think anything else could have done, and just adds so much to this MOC, even though it's not a huge area space-wise. I was actually thinking of switching the spear hand on this row to the other hand, that way the spears were across from each other, but I actually like this alternating look, so I think I might keep it like this. Moving on to the droidicas, we've got 2 right here. I'm really loving the design. They're going to work perfectly for Coruscant. Yet another example of a small but dynamic build that's going to add so much to this overall battle and MOC. And as if these weren't cool enough, I bought this blue windscreen, and I'm going to use it to kind of represent the front of the shields that they employ, which I thought would just be another great detail and a nice little pop of color to add to the MOC. I got this idea from another Lego Star Wars MOC I saw a while ago. I wish I could remember what it was. I'll try and see if I can find a picture of it, but I think this looks really cool and just adds a unique aspect to the droidica that you don't see in a whole lot of Lego Star Wars MOCs, as it's pretty hard to build and represent their shields. But I think what I might do is buy 2 more of these and set them on the back so it's almost completely surrounded minus the arms. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is the ATTE situation, because I've got a bit of a problem here. One of the things I was so excited about doing this MOC was I'd finally get to include the Brick Vault ATTE, and really just an ATTE in general. Of all the large scale MOCs I've built so far, I've only been able to include an ATTE in one of them, and that was Utapau. I finally had a lot of space and an opportunity to not only include one, but I was also able to include this big Brick Vault version, which I've yet to put into one of my large scale MOCs. The issue is its size. Of course, this thing is absolutely massive. It's basically minifig scale, so you can see it takes up most of the road and out into the street, and I was planning on the battle happening like right around here, but I don't want it to be happening like right in the face of the ATTE because I don't think that would be very realistic, which means I'm gonna have to scoot the battle all the way back to here. I don't know, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it'll be easier to see it, but I kind of wanted everything to be further this way to kind of represent how close the droid army comes to taking the Senate building. So my other option is to use one of the modified 2013 ATTEs that I have. This is much more compact and much smaller. You can see I'd be able to fit a lot more minifigs and battle emplacements, mortars, all kinds of stuff around the actual vehicle, and I could probably bring the battle a little bit closer this way. Also, I feel like this looks a little bit more realistically scaled to the rest of the city. Like, it might be kind of harder to just envision that massive brick vault ATTE realistically sitting here because it wouldn't really be able to walk down the street super well, whereas this one fits on the road better, and you can just envision this maneuvering and walking through Coruscant a little bit better because it, is a little bit smaller compared to everything else. The downside is obvious. I mean, this one is not nearly as cool or as realistic and just won't look as good in the mock as the brick vault one would. So I'm honestly not sure which one I'm going to go with, so I'd love your guys' input on which one you think would look better in the mock.
Now that I'm warmed and fired up to build, it's time to turn my sights to the Senate building. I also need to build up this vast flat stretch along the front. I feel like I pour hundreds of bricks into this part of the mock and it hardly ever gets taller. At least I don't need to run the brick all the way up to the roof, since the section of angled panels that sits on top of this wall will act as a good chunk of the wall, and we'll just have a bunch of random filler brick on the inside. I think I've used around 1,200 1x3 bricks so far, with many more on the way. Now it's time to really secure and strengthen that curved wall, which just means continuing to make it taller and connect it to the front wall. I also fixed that mistake that popped up on the screen for a second earlier in case anyone was wondering. I don't have much to say about this section, so sit back and enjoy some tunes and try not to think about how much I've spent on just 1x3 brick in the past month. Now it's time to connect each of the round pillars and flat panels of brick together. Every 12 bricks, I run 2 rows of round and regular plate to reinforce everything and allow this wall to continue to curve seamlessly, and not bow away from each other as they get taller and bulge outward. Why every 12 bricks? Well, the reason is actually really important. You see,
I must say, this Senate building is looking mighty fine. I know there were some people who had some things that they didn't really like about it, but I honestly am really liking how this is coming together more and more. It didn't look so good these past couple of weeks, but now that both curves are more finished and you can really start to get a good feel and vision for what like the outline of the building is going to look like, I think it looks much better. And one thing to keep in note, a lot of this is unfinished. So I had some people talking about this. The main reason I built this was just to see if these long wedge plates right here would actually create the right shape that I needed. So this isn't what it's going to look like in its final form. Like, you can see how that's jutting off into nothing. Like, I just built this to make sure these would work so I could order them in bulk. And then I'm going to go back through and like redo a lot of this and, make sure the right colors are in and just make sure I'm getting the best and most accurate looking shape possible. I am unfortunately out of brick, so this was as high as I was able to get. But like I said, just it makes a big difference finally having like a good portion of the entire bottom done, because that whole side over there only had about 12 bricks worth of wall built, and then there's that big section in the middle, so it was very hard to get a very complete look at it. So I'm glad I was able to do as much as I did. I know I didn't give a very good answer for how much taller this Senate building is going to be and where this plated section is going to be, and that's just because I don't really know. It's kind of one of those things where I just have to build and try it out and see how it looks and adjust and build. I didn't really have like a set height where I was like, it's going to be 55 bricks tall. And while I'm doing a little progress update, I decided to give you guys kind of my decision for what I want to do with the ATTE. I decided I'm going to go with the UCS one for a couple of reasons. And the first being the most obvious, it just looks the best. It looks more accurate. It's bigger. Like it matches the vibe of Coruscant. This is me, the pinnacle of my mock building in a way. And so just to have like a random place at ATTE, I just felt like didn't really match the grandeur and size of this mock. So I think this will vibe with everything better. And I decided there is plenty of space. One of the reasons I was thinking about doing the playset one is because it fit in here better, but honestly you can see the ATTE fits within the road. Like, it doesn't even have to step up onto the sidewalk. So I can't envision this thing maneuvering around. It's definitely a lot bigger, but I don't think that's going to be an issue for me anymore. And so, since I finally decided on which model I'm using, I can now start to plan where the actual battle is going to take place. Unfortunately, it will mean I have to push the battle further back this way. I don't even know if that's unfortunate. I don't think it really matters that much. It's probably going to be better for spacing wise. That way this whole road isn't empty and then suddenly all the minifigs are crammed right here. So it might help diverse the minifigs a little bit. But on today's stream, I started placing down these headlight bricks. So I just pulled up sections of the road and then put 1x brick and 2x2 bricks in there with these headlight bricks, which is basically a 1x1 brick with a stud on the side. And now I've got places to start putting down. Now I've got places to put the minifigs. I'm not going to put a stud for every single minifigure just because that would mean I need to place down like 300 of these bricks. And I know I don't even have close to that many. I just needed a good base to where the majority of them, or at least some of them, could be connected to the ground and the others will just be set on top. That way if the table gets bumped or knocked, there won't be this massive domino effect that knocks over every single minifig. Or most of them.
Just when you thought we were done, I have one more surprise. I'm adding flags to the top of the tunnel. I was considering either this large statue or flags, and I toyed with the flag idea for a while but was undecided until someone pointed out that the statue might cut off our field of vision of the Senate building from certain angles, and that's the last thing I want to do, so flags win. I went with red and blue colors because it looks like those colors were in front of the actual Senate building and they look really good together. The flags turned out great and look right at home on top of the tunnel, plus they add a great pop of color to the sea of light bluish gray in front of the Senate building.
Honestly, I'm surprised I got this update out on time. It's currently 1 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, the day this is supposed to come out, and I'm hoping by the time you see this, this video will be out and on time. I haven't even started editing yet, but I got all the building done. Everything is done. I now just need to compile it all together into the update. And even though this wasn't a progress or like visible build heavy update, my goal for getting re-excited and refocused on Coruscant was definitely accomplished. I am ready and raring to go, especially now that my Lego room is really set up and I'm starting to get a little bit more familiar with where everything's going. I feel like I can move around and build with much more confidence moving forward. That means next week I'm going all in on the Senate building. I feel like I say that every week, but at this point there really isn't much else that I really need to focus on. And so it's either going to be working on pillars, working on the roof, working on the wall. Something has to happen with that Senate building because I want to get it done quick. I'm also going to be working on the bank, finishing the walls, and then building the support system of beams that's going to help hold up the roof and the skyscraper on top. All that being said, good stuff planned, but don't forget to let me know what you thought about this update down below in the comments. I really appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate your support for Coruscant and just the channel in general, and I'll catch you next time. But until then, happy building.